Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you how to smooth an object in Rhino and Grasshopper. So the process of this is going to start off with a base mesh, or I'm going to actually create the base mesh and then I'll show you how to I'll show you how to do a mesh topology, and then using that mesh topology to actually smooth it out to kind of create the form that you want. So what I'm going to do is once I create that mesh, give me one sec. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create that mesh in here, and I'll show you that, and then we're going to move to Grasshopper in order to, which is right here, in order to show you guys how to smooth it out, and then, you know, make it look really nice and kind of like, it just gives it that extra kind of fine tuning. So, to start off, so what we're going to do is I'm going to start with a box. You can start with really any dimension, but I guess we'll start with like a 1 by 1 by 1. So we'll start with that. Shaded mode. And then we're going to take that box, just move it somewhere to the side, and to just explode it. So in order to create our mesh topology, we're actually going to use each one of these kind of components to create it. So we're going to copy and paste different areas. Not really copy and paste, but just mostly copying. I guess it could be copy and paste. Move it a little closer maybe. So I'm going to copy this object, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this up. Just going to move these out of the way real quick. Kind of just explode it out a little bit. Kind of the form that I'm looking for. So I'm thinking it's going to be something like that. So I'm going to copy basically from here. Copy here. Copy this. Kind of create some walls here. You could also rebuild, but it's a little bit easier to control this way. So once you have that, I'm going to copy this vertically. Actually, I'm going to copy both of these vertically. Copy that. So I'm going to create this little box-like object, something like this, and something on the bottom here. Alright, and now we're going to take this kind of side, the top side, and copy that into here to create our mesh topology. And if it doesn't fit, you just move it into there. So I'll just copy this. It can kind of be a rectangular prism at this point, but right now we're just going to move these here. Okay. As you can see, this is missing a couple, or it's missing a whole edge, so we're just going to move this back over here. And let's actually delete these three. And we'll make those the starting mesh. Excuse me. And then now we are going to take the side ones. You can also use this box like kind of as a view cube, so you can be like, oh, I want a side piece, and then just copy here. Something like this, I think, could be appropriate. And then like, okay, I want these side pieces. So you're basically making a topology for the mesh that you will later on use. So I'm going to copy this. It's a lot of basically just copying here. Also, I hope everyone is staying safe from the virus. I heard that people from the United States will not be able to travel to Europe this summer because of that. We are terrible at pandemics. So, we do not know how to prepare and follow rules. We are very bad. That's one thing that I realized. We are just very bad at following rules. We don't like to be told what to do. I don't think anyone does, but the U.S. especially. That can be good and bad. So anyways, so I have my mesh here, and then delete that top. And I'm gonna copy this. So I want to keep the holes, I want to keep this open. Okay, just move this and copy. This copy. So we have something like this for the top part, and then I'm going to move this actually up a little bit. I'm just going to make a kind of an easy portal almost, or just like a small 1x1 tube. So copy this, and then I will, leave it like that. And then I will copy this. Okay. Okay. Alright, so I joined them all together. And now, well, I may just keep it that open, honestly. Well, hold on. Okay, before joining them, I'm actually going to an extra ring. Actually, a couple rings I think will be pretty sufficient. Something like that. Something like that. Got some weird looking mesh. Okay. So once you have that, what we're going to do is now join them all together. And now we are going to do a so normally with the surface you do points on. So like for example, if we had a plane, or for example if we had so normally you would do a point on. So if I did something like this, normally if I had something like this, if I had two curves, normally if I had something like this, and I would do points on, and then you can kind of control the surface from there, right? In this case, if I try that, you really can't do that. It starts to, it'll just say like cannot for a poly surface. So for poly surface you do solid points on. And you select the poly surface, and you got that. So what I'm going to do actually, you can actually, I forget, there's a way to actually have the toolbars on like what you can select, but I don't know exactly how to do that. I cannot remember. It was like filtering selection. Maybe there's something here. Anyways, so what I would do here is I would just do this and then scale it up a bit, something like this. So I usually just highlight the points I want, and then scale it down, scale it like that. In something, so in this version, I'm going to show you how to do it in Rhino. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to do it in a different software, like Blender or 3ds Max. So you can have some sort of cone shape, or move it move the vertices down like this. So what you can do is actually something like this, move vertically, and then match it, and scale it, and scale it in. Solid points on. So what we can do is actually select those points, Select those points, scale it upwards. Something pretty wonky looking. So right now I'm not really thinking too much about what I'm doing. I'm just kind of scaling and shifting and moving it around to see kind of what I like. I just realized I made a fish, so I guess we're gonna stick with that. I didn't think I would think I'd do that. So if I select the poly surface, it's fine. If I just move it out a little bit, create my little fishy. I did not intend this to be a fish, but I guess it's going to be a parametric fish. Except it's turning its head weird. I'm actually going to move this out a little bit. You can also do individual points and just kind of move those down to the side a little bit. Move those down. You can kind of see a little bit of smoothness going on here. Not much, but just a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever shape that you're looking for, this is kind of how you would do it. You just make a mesh topology, even though the poly surfaces for right now, but we will get to that. This should be fine. I'm thinking it should be, at least. I think this should be fine. I'm going to have to think about it. I'm going to have to make sure. I think the only thing is like maybe the scaling will throw it off. Alright, well, we'll try this anyways. So now I have my mesh, or quote-unquote mesh. So if I do mesh right now, it's going to come out something like this. So that's what's going to happen. But, so we're going to actually mesh it in Grasshopper. And the way you would do that is you're going to reference the poly surface as a bref. So select multiple surfaces, enter. Once you do that, you want to do a deconstruct bref. If I can spell bref. And when you deconstruct, you get faces, edges, and vertices. So you want to take those faces and actually use those as a mesh surface. So you're going to create those as surfaces. This would be a good idea to hide everything. I usually hide all these things and just check the mesh in general. Looks a little weird. So what we need to do is a unify mesh normal. Mesh unify normals. Okay, so we have a bit of a madness right now. Mesh unify normals. Yep. And then weld mesh. So we're going to use the Weaverbird one. And then set boolean to true. And that's kind of what it looks like. That's some weird display properties. What I like to do as well when I do this is mesh edges. And just look at kind of the topology that's happening. So that's really what's happening here. Usually what I like to do is set these to 1. So you get kind of the raw geometry. Okay, so what you want to do now that you kind of have that going on, do mesh. Let's do a mesh, not mesh. There's two things you could do. If you just want to smooth it, you can just do a Catmull Clark smoothing. Let's plug this into here. And then you can see it's smoothing it out. Let's say we do 3. You get this. Very nice, very smooth. But let's say you want to keep it at the same what's it called? The same, what's it? Can't think of the word. The kind of same sharpness it has right here. As you can see, it's kind of almost getting a fillet to it. So what I'm going to do is smooth naked edges and then turn to fixed. So it still smooths it. As you can see here, we have a nice smooth mesh kind of happening. Looks very nice, actually. Very pretty. So for example, if we bake something like this, you're going to end up with this. Has some weird normals going on, but that should be fine. I'll make sure inconsistencies and directions. Okay, I think it should be fine. Or maybe I should weld it first. I think just welding it will be fine. I think maybe if I reverse this, it should be fine. Yeah, there we go. It should be fine. Let me try this. Okay, I baked the wrong thing. There we go. Okay, so you can see the mesh, the normals for the mesh in here is wrong. Well, this one's right. Doesn't have that weird display. If I render it, you're going to see it had this weird display that's happening. I do not know what that is. So it's basically just fixing the normals of the mesh. And oh wow, it's all over the place here. So I think we fix that. This is a fairly simple mesh too. So this will be a, if I do a text, or text, Catmull Clark. Right? I'll just leave it at that. So this one's a Catmull Clark. So what we can do instead, there's two things we can do. Another smoothing one is we can do a latency smoothing. I think that's how you say it. Latency smoothing. Plug this into here. Mesh edges here. So you can see, you can go pretty high levels with this. So you can see if I do it pretty high, it just kind of shrinks it because it's just smoothing it. It just turns it to that. So what we want to do is fix those edges and just smooth it out. Now as you can see, it's not really doing much, it's just turning into like a lighthouse. So what you can do is, instead of this being 1, you can change this to be something else. So we have 10. So different numbers here. So this will kind of define the quality of the mesh. So let's just kind of tone that down. Doesn't be too high. So you can see it's really starting to get that definition of that. So you see there are differences between the two. While this one's kind of almost sucking it in. It almost looks like a bunch of tubes. Like kind of those mesh tubes that you would see. You see the quality deteriorates as I move the slider. As I increase it, the quality increases. You can also throw on, once you are done, a Catmull Clark. As you can see, it just adds a lot more vertices. It makes the mesh a lot more fine. Go 3. See, that mesh is super fine. Probably only need 2. Even then, it seems a bit far-fetched to do, but if I bake this, you can definitely see the difference between these two, especially rendered. This one's kind of maintaining the shape a lot more, while this one is almost deteriorated some of this influential shape that's occurred. As you can see, very nice. So this one is a leap distance. So if I just do it with the smoothing, for example, if I just do it with the normal smoothing technique, then we just come up with this. can also play around with these kind of subdivisions. There's different type of subdivisions they have here. They're just based on different types of subdivision. You can just try them out here. I usually just stick with the Catmull Clark. Just seems to work the best. But you can try here, and you can see it gives out these type of solutions. If I can, they're just triangularized. It looks like one of those rhino meshes that you would have. But yeah, it just looks like a normal kind of mesh, and it just adds more quality. And usually people like to keep them quads, because then you get these weird faceted kind of detailing, while in here it looks pretty smooth here. But yeah, it just depends on what you are modeling in a sense, or what you want this to render out to be. That's really the end of the day, what you are thinking about. So yeah, this is one way, and oh, I just realized. Hold on. So hold on, let me turn this off. Okay, so this is what I've been talking about. So, I'm sorry, I'm getting used to having Grasshopper and Rhino on different screens. Usually I have them on the same screen here. But yeah, this is the Catmull Clark resultant, and this is the Laplace smoothing. I think I spelled that wrong. And this is with a triangulated smoothing technique. So I just copy this over. Just name it triangulate. I think I spelled that completely wrong. Triangulate, yep. Laplace, yep, there it is. Okay, and now back to Grasshopper. So I just have these. So basically that's pretty much it for smoothing of meshes. It just really, if you just think about it, that's really all it takes. Is just like kind of retopologize the mesh itself. So if I do show, for example, and now I'm like, alright, well, it looks a little funky. So you can now start to tweak the mesh itself and just move it down, and it'll just kind of redo everything there. So for example, I actually really like this kind of resultant here. And actually a kind of a clever way of doing this is you can just do a quick move command in the Y direction. Okay, that's a YZ, but a Y direction. And just do like a big number, like 20. Probably a little bit bigger than that. Oh, okay. So you can kind of see it, maybe a little bit less than 20. So you can kind of see the resembling images of it. So then you can start to tweak it. So you can see this area is kind of lost. So you can really start to emphasize that and show it off. And you can be like, ooh, I really like the smoothness, but I want more of the kind of the bulkiness of that. Like, I really like this smoothness and this topology. And then you go like, oh, I'm just going to move this up here. And then come back to Grasshopper. Tweak the settings a little bit in here. So what I'm going to do is take this. If I hide this, go to Mesh Edges, and plug this into here. Okay. Okay, so you're left with something like this. You can see it just rounds everything real nicely. Or you could just leave it to smooth those edges as well. I usually like to keep them fixed. If I define that I want to be rounded, I'll round them myself. But you can see it's just basically taking it and almost coating it, or like a kind of like a drape. And you get this nice mesh. If I show, if I also do a move command here, and just Okay, so you can see if I do preview here, here. Good night, Mom. Sorry, it's my mom. Just wanted to say goodnight to her. Move this into here. You can see it starts to interact and change. So so basically you can now start to change it and see kind of the updated mesh that is happening. It's one of the powerful things about Grasshopper. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the smoothing of meshes. So if I basically, the steps are very simple too. It's not super hard to do, but yeah, very very easy to do, and honestly, it's one of the easier things to do in Rhino or Grasshopper. Actually, meshes are usually a weird thing in Rhino because it's not meant for that, but I think it's it could be a lot easier, but I heard in 7 they have subdivision modeling, so that's definitely going to change things. But yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, his little eyes, I didn't even recognize that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll show you guys the other way through modeling it in Max or modeling it in somewhere else. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys on another video. Take care.